Hey team. As most of you know, I just got back from basically the trip of my dreams. I was in Austria and Germany and Denmark, going around to all of the amazing Christmas markets. And I was in my absolute fairy tale place. All the food was amazing, all the people were wonderful, and everything was so indescribably spectacularly beautiful that I almost didn't get on the plane home. I'm only half joking when I say that. Now I am sort of readjusting, obviously, back to my real life, which of course doesn't stop when you're on vacation. And so getting back to work, jet lag is pretty much gone, and now we're back to our normal day-to-day. And part of that normal day-to-day, now that, of course, we are still in the holiday season, means Christmas parties are still a go, and Christmas baking for those Christmas parties still needs to happen. Now, because I was just getting back, I didn't feel like embarking on something overly complicated, but still wanted to try kind of a new recipe out. And so I saw a couple of recipes for Snickerdoodles, but not just Snickerdoodles, brown butter Snickerdoodles. Typically, Snickerdoodles are a delicious cinnamon sugar rolled sugar cookie, but they also have either cream of tartar or lemon juice in them to give them just a little bit of a tang. I don't have any cream of tartar, so I'm gonna try a recipe that uses lemon juice. And we'll see how they go. I've also never tried making brown butter before. So we could either just burn it and see how it turns out, or we could see some success. Let's find out. And baking music for today, we're feeling a little bit of Charlie Brown. Now to brown the butter, I'm actually melting 2 cups, because I'm doubling up this recipe. So essentially the whole pound of butter on a medium-low heat. And when you brown butter, what actually happens is all of the milk fat that's within the butter is being cooked, essentially. You're cooking off a lot of the extra water that's within the butter, and you are cooking just the fat itself like you would in typically any other cooking process. Now, the reason why we're kind of starting on low is because we obviously don't want to cook it too fast because we don't want it to burn. And as soon as we start to see some of like the brown speckling coming up, we're gonna take it off of the heat so that it doesn't burn too quick. Okay, so as you guys can see, this has been bubbling quite violently for a long time, and now this is kind of the last of the water escaping, and it's kind of hard to tell, but there's some lovely kind of brown bits starting to float up here. So we are going to pull this off of the heat so that it doesn't overcook. So you can see what a lovely brownish color that turns into, and it also develops such a lovely, like, nutty smell to it too. And that flavor actually helps infuse the cookies too. So once you start smelling that, then you can also know, take it off the heat. Now, your brown butter should be fully cooled before you start using it. So I'm gonna put together the dry ingredients while that's doing that. And then, who knows, I might put it in the fridge just to speed up the process because I'm impatient. So we're gonna do, because we're doubling this recipe, we're gonna do 5 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a teaspoon of baking soda, and some salt. And now this recipe says to add nutmeg, which I will be doing. However, within the recipe as well, even though we're going to be rolling the dough before we put in the oven in cinnamon and sugar, I'm gonna put a little bit of dough in the recipe as well, just so that that flavor is sort of all the way through the cookie and not just sitting on the outside. Now that our brown butter is cooled, and it still smells so good, we're gonna start putting together the wet mixture. So to the brown butter, we are going to add 2 cups of brown sugar and about 1.33 cups, again, we're doubling this recipe, of white sugar. We are adding both. This is going to be, I've never made Snickerdoodles before, but they seem like they're gonna be a little bit sweet, but I'm excited. And also adding the brown and the white sugar is just gonna give it a little bit more depth as well. So the brown sugar plus the brown butter, I think is gonna be a deadly combo. Now, because we're using lemon juice in this recipe instead of cream of tartar like I've seen in others, the lemon juice is going to be added to the wet mixture, to the brown butter, whereas if you're using a cream of tartar powder, you would add it to the flour mixture. It's just important to keep your wet and dry ingredients separate. I don't do it all the time, but do as I say, not as I do. All of the sugars, the lemon juice, and the vanilla are beautifully mixed together. So we are going to add in 4 eggs, kind of one at a time, make sure they're very incorporated. And then we are going to mix our wet with our dry with our wet. You know what I mean. So now, slowly, in order to maybe hopefully avoid making too much of a mess, no guarantees, we're gonna slowly add our dry to our wet, without getting too crazy with it, because we don't want a flour tornado. And once this is fully incorporated, we're gonna throw it in the fridge for about 20 minutes. Okay, dough is done. We're gonna cover this, put it in the fridge while the oven's preheating at 350. And thank goodness I was able to get that done because my hand mixer just ran out of power. Hey Lisa, why do you use a hand mixer instead of a stand mixer? Because it's too much counter space. And frankly, hand mixers are a good workout. And we're back. Hey Lisa, did you change? And it looks like a totally new day. It is. I baked up about half of the dough super quickly on Wednesday night and rolled it out. It was getting late and I was very tired, so I didn't actually film the rest. However, I do still have about half the dough for my friend's party tonight, so I'll actually show you how to execute the rest. So to a smaller bowl, you're gonna have a mix of cinnamon and sugar, white sugar. Just make sure that it's a good blend, but frankly on this part, if you like it a little bit more cinnamon heavy, you can add a little bit more cinnamon, but it's just gonna give it just a nice coat on the outside. So because I'm making these a touch smaller and because of all of the butter in this, they will spread a bit in your oven. So I'm using, this one's about the 1-inch scoop. And so I'm scooping out some of the batter. And I'm just gonna give it a nice roll in a ball with my hands. Because even though it's actually like still a circle, like I said, when they bake out, they'll bake out really nicely. And give it a nice roll in the cinnamon sugar and put it on a parchment lined baking sheet. And we're going to bake these off for, I baked the other ones at about 12 or 13 minutes. Totally depends on your oven, at 350. And another thing to note as well is that a lot of cookie recipes will tell you after you finish the batter to put it in the fridge for sometimes half an hour, sometimes a few hours. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna help re-solidify the butter. And that actually helps prevent the cookies from spreading too much in your oven. Personally, I don't mind a cookie that spreads a little bit more. I find that sometimes it gives it a little bit more chew, but if you like it like that as well, then you just don't need to keep it in the fridge as long. Ooh, they look so good. And I have one more in the oven because that's what was left of the batter. So while those are cooling, I am going to get ready for my Christmas party and then pack those up and head on out. I'll see you guys later. Have a great weekend.